What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Kings Court with me, Vincent Miracle for Fansided.com, GoldenGateSports.com, and whether you're on the app or online watching me live right now, I want to thank you guys all for making me a part of your day. And joining us again on this show, Fox Sports writer Sam Amico. Sam, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Vincent. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be back.
Hey, thanks for coming back on the show. I loved having you on last time. I'm glad to have you back. So the last time you were on our show, we talked about the Kings, how they're going to be gradually improving, and I believe it was right before the season started, and, the team has completely changed from where we started. Beginning of the season, they had Grievous Vasquez and, John Salmons as their 1 and 3 as their starters. What have you seen as such an improvement of this team, or maybe even faults with the team so far this season?
Well, I think part of it is adapting to a new coach again under Michael Malone, which is, I think he's a great coach for that team. It's going to take some time to integrate everything he wants to do with the younger team. Obviously, you have a great talent in DeMarcus Cousins, a nice player in Isaiah Thomas, and they've undergone some changes. What's surprising to me, Vincent, is how teams have, I thought Marcus Thornton or Jimmer Fredette would become a key component for them, and now neither of them are there.
Yeah, but, they're both gone.
Right, they're both gone, so they've made their changes, small changes, and I think there will be more to come. They tried to unload Dixon Thompson at the trading deadline and just couldn't work out a deal there. So, I guess I still think they're a team on the rise. It's just going to take a little bit of time, and sometimes I know Kings don't like to hear this. The new coach is taking a year or two, which, while the Kings have been playoff long enough, they may have to wait maybe until the end of 2015, the 2015-16 season to get a taste of the playoffs. But I think they got the people there. Once they take that step, they're going to stay in it for a while.
Right. Well, you mentioned that the Kings made some few little small moves, but they also made a pretty big move in Sacramento's opinion about acquiring Rudy Gay in that 7-player deal. And since coming from Toronto to Sacramento, he's played very efficiently. He's shooting just above 50%, averaging 20 points, a couple assists, and a couple of rebounds. At the end of the season, though, he has that player option of whether or not he's going to want to come back to Sacramento and make that $19 million or go find himself on a possibly winning team. Do you see him possibly wanting to move, or do you think he's going to stay for that money? And how have you seen his play get better so far being in Sacramento?
Well, first of all, I think he will end up staying. I know a lot of people are thinking he's going to go to try to go to a better situation. Maybe he will, but I think he's in a good situation because he's got, like I said, a young talent around him. But as far as this improvement, and I think that's something that Rudy Gay needs to consider when he's thinking about, opting out, is the fact that his game has really taken a step there. He can truly be a leader and all-star alongside DeMarcus Cousins. So, and I think the Kings' offense is something the players enjoy playing in. I mean, you look at the Kings right now, they're 12th in points scored in the NBA at 101.7 points a game. So, as a player like those up-tempo offenses and scoring a lot of points, I think that's appealing to guys like Rudy Gay and Marcus Cousins and some of the other key pieces there.
Yeah, I agree. But here's my question about the Rudy Gay contract that I've actually stated could be a big game changer when the offseason comes. Is Isaiah Thomas is a restricted free agent at the end of this season, and he has played very well this season, and I believe he played in his way into a pretty good amount of money. Do you think that having Rudy Gay making $19 million, DeMarcus Cousins about to start going on to his max contract, will they have the money to really, sign Isaiah Thomas? Do you think Sacramento sees Isaiah Thomas as the point guard of the future?
Well, I think it's a pretty scorer. Is he the true point guard to lead you to that next level? I personally think he is, but I think there's some doubts about that, whether he's more of a scoring point guard, a first point guard, and when you have Cousins and A on the team already, then you wonder if you need a scoring point guard. But the key is, Vincent, I think those three are the three guys that you build your team around. Everybody else, the Derek Williams, those type of players, you can kind of fill in where needed. I don't know if anybody else on the roster is quite as important as those three, as Cousins, Gay, and Thomas. Obviously Ben McLemore you have high hopes for, but I think those three are important to lock in for the long term, and like you said, that could be an issue with the contract situation being what they are. Can you pay 3 stars anymore? Maximum contracts or major money, it's difficult to do, but if you can fill it around those three and see how McLemore develops, I think the Kings will be fine, both financially.
Yeah, I think so too. My biggest thing is just the contract. I know that the Kings are trying to get a winning product on the floor as soon as possible, especially with the new arena coming in. So that's kind of brought up the Isaiah Thomas. I've told everyone countless times, I don't know what's going to happen, but I just have a feeling that it could be a game-changing situation where the Kings feel they could possibly get their point guard in this, high-profile draft. Do you have any any key players, like point guard wise, or even any position that the Kings probably should be looking at in this draft coming up?
I mean, you look all the way down the roster and you see Cousins at center, and to me, I think they need to try to find, and I like guys like Jason Thompson enough, and Carl Landry enough, and Derek Williams obviously enough. But I think if you look at their roster, you've got Cousins at center, Gay at small forward, assuming all these guys are back next year. And McLemore is hopefully your shooting guard of the future with Thomas the point guard. To me, I think of the names I listed, the power forward position is kind of the one that you're looking to get somebody there. So this draft, that will probably be their focus, whether they get a power forward in the draft or whether they use the pick to obtain a different type of power forward. But here's the thing, they've had power forward issues for years. They got J.J. Hickson, thought that would be the answer, and ever since then, he wasn't, and ever since then, it's kind of been an issue that power forward for them.
Yeah, it's been a couple years now where they've had Jason Thompson basically lose his starting job to someone they bring in, and then Jason Thompson wins the starting job all over again.
Right.
And now you have Carl Landry, Reggie Evans, Quincy Acey. The team is just stacked with a bunch of power forwards, and they just don't know which one to play at times.
Right.
So
I think if they could get a dynamic power forward, they'd be set.
Yeah, and the provingness of Ben McLemore would really help them out as well. I wanted to get into before I get into DeMarcus Cousins, I wanted to ask you about these 10-day contracts that the Kings just signed to. They signed one 10-day contract with Orlando Johnson, who's played in a couple of games so far with the Kings, and they just signed Royce White, and they're assigning him to the D-League. Do you see anything coming out of the Royce White or Orlando Johnson deal, to where they're either looking to really sign one of them to fill a roster spot, or they're just trying to see what they can do, what their talents are?
Well, I think it's probably to see what they can do, what their talents are, and because of that, I really like those signings. I thought Orlando Johnson was a nice player. He kind of still developing and kind of a D-League guy at the moment, but I really liked him and think he's a really good shooter. I think he was a nice fill. You know, hey, you lost Jimmer Fredette. You parted ways with him. You parted ways with Marcus Thornton in the trade. So that it's a nice way to try to fin and take a look at a guy by signing Orlando Johnson. And we all know, you know, about Royce White. He's got all the talent in the world. And he was a remarkable college player, could be a good pro. Obviously, he's had the anxiety issues and something he feels like he's overcoming or says he's overcoming. So I think he was a great signing for them. And, you know, he's a kid that has an opportunity to do something here and has a gift. And hopefully he'll stick with it and be able to, you know, rebuild his life along the way because, you know, having an anxiety disorder is no joke. And I met him and talked to him a couple of times. He's a good guy. So I hope it works out for him. And if so, then who knows, maybe they solve that dynamic power forward spot because he could certainly fill it. I mean, he's got all the skills. Let's hope he develops. But on the Kings side, I think they're both great signings because the two who could, yeah, maybe they don't work out, but there's only one way to find out, and these guys have shown in the past that they have ability.
Right, I completely agree. I like both of them. I really like Orlando Johnson and Royce White. You already said it. You know, he has a history with the anxiety problems, and hopefully, you know, the Kings can find a way to straighten it out and see what he can do in the D-League. But I want to get into DeMarcus Cousins now. You know, he just picked up his 15th technical foul. He's one foul away from being suspended. I don't know. I know you cover basically the entire NBA, so a lot of the focus probably isn't on the Kings. But what are you hearing about DeMarcus Cousins? Because as a follower of the team and a close rider for the team, I see that DeMarcus Cousins actually has made improvements in his mood swings, basically, I would say, and keeping his temper down. But statistically and in the technical foul columns, you don't really see that. What are you hearing around the league about DeMarcus Cousins? Is he an all-star? But what are you hearing?
Well, I think he's already an all-star. You know, he should have been. But that will come with winning. You know, you got to win. You got to win games. I just think you know, we talked about this early in the season when I was on before about he's a very good passer. He's you know, people don't realize this, I think, because of the impression or reputation surrounding him. He's actually a pretty good teammate and an okay guy in the locker room, you know, but I think the issues with the technicals and stuff, you know, hey, some guys just a little more hot-headed than others, you know.
Some guys.
Kevin Durant, who we all love, gets some technicals sometimes. Kobe went through a phase where he would get technicals all the time too, you know. So that's not to say, hey, it's okay that DeMarcus Cousins is getting technicals, but you know, I agree with you that he's done a much better job managing some of the hot-headedness he had in the past, and I think that he's maturing. Whereas, you know, Rich Wallace was a guy who was kind of like that, and we all liked him because he managed to continue to win and play hard. And as long as DeMarcus does those things, you know, I think the other stuff, as long as it doesn't affect the coaching staff or team, you can live with that.
All right, that's awesome. I want to get into these fan questions before I gotta let you go because we're coming down to the last few minutes here. I have a question from the name is too long and I can't pronounce it, but he says, "How do you feel about Jimmer Fredette going to Chicago?"
Well, you know, I think it's a win-win for both sides. He obviously let. Quite honestly, I think Tom Thibodeau is a genius, at least as far as the basketball coach goes, because you look what he's done with these Bulls teams after they traded Luol Deng for nothing, for no immediate help, and how Derrick Rose was locked again for the season. You know, Kirk Heinrich's in and out of the lineup. and Jokic has missed some time, and Boozer's missed time, and yet they continue to win. They went into San Antonio and won. That blew my mind. But I think for Devil will be it's a good opportunity for him there, because if anybody can figure out how to use him and turn him into a better defender, it would definitely be Thibodeau there in Chicago.
Yeah, you just hit it right on the head. I said the reason why it's a good signing for Jimmer Fredette is because Tom Thibodeau teaches defense, and the biggest knock on Jimmer Fredette was his defense, so why not learn from one of the best defensive coaches in the NBA right now? The next question, Sam Bailey, he says, basically what we talked about earlier, do you think Isaiah Thomas is a good option as your future starting point guard? I think we kind of...
Well, yeah, we touched on it earlier, but I think he is. He's obviously, in his third year, so you got to give him a little more time, but I think he could be your long-term starter there. It's just a matter of maybe take a little less shots, and distribute a little more. But he's right there as far as being a starter.
And then the last question comes from One King 909. It says, what's your guys' take on having three players averaging almost 20 points a game? And for me, it's basically the same thing that we've been touching on this entire episode of the Kings Court. Just, it's a good gel. It's a good big three for Sacramento to build on, and that's basically how I feel about it. What about you, Sam?
Same way. I think it's, first of all, I think it's awesome. It's a throwback to the days when NBA games were played at a fast pace, and it's almost going back to that. But I think it's great to have three guys scoring 20 points, and like I said, it gives you that trio, that strong trio, and that base to build on and build around. And hey, just imagine if Ben McLemore turns into a 16 to 18 point guy. All of a sudden, the Kings are scoring 130 a game and beating everybody. So, hey, I think it's interesting.
Exactly, and that's why I keep saying that maybe this offseason isn't about looking for a big paying guy. It's looking for role player guys, specialty player guys like maybe a Ronnie Brew or Al-Farouq Amino, guys who can play defense, because this Kings team is stacked with so much offense.
Right, and all you need is one defender. We know Michael Malone loves defense.
That's right. All right, Sam, we got over the time that you asked for here, and I appreciate you coming back on the show again.
All right, Vincent, thanks a lot for having me. I'd be happy to be on anytime.
Oh, whenever you want to come on, I'll be happy to have you on again as well.
All right, thanks, buddy.
All right, Sam, I'll talk to you later, man.
All right, bye-bye.
That was Fox Sports writer Sam Amico giving his take on the Sacramento Kings. Go ahead and leave your comments in the comment section down below and let me know what you guys think of our take on the team thus far. I've answered every single question that we have here. Actually, I think I missed one. I'm sorry. It was Let's Go Sac. Let's Go Sac, I apologize. I did not ask your question. It was how do you feel about the signing of Royce White and Orlando Johnson? We touched on that question earlier. He said those are good signings. It's just to see the potential of each player. I'm trying to get it off that 20-minute mark, so we're coming down to the last few minutes here. But, yeah, it's just to see the potential of what these players can do. Royce White has talent. You just know the backstory of his anxiety. What he can do for the Kings is still a big, big question mark. But he's going to go to the D-League. He's not playing for the team just yet. So that's kind of where we're going at from there. And Orlando Johnson is one of those players that's going to be the energy guy. He can be that role player guy that can knock down a three-pointer but be on a on-man defense. He's kind of like a poor man's Tony Douglas, and a young player who could possibly get up to that great defender. He's very quick, very low. He hustles for everything. He's determined to make it onto an NBA roster and hopefully sustain it. So that is all the time I have on this episode of the Kings Court. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for making me a part of your day. If you haven't subscribed yet to the episode, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you have a question that you want to get on the show, you can email your questions at thekingscourtpodcast@gmail.com. You can also hit me up on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at VMCenter. You should be able to see those down here at the bottom here. And again, I appreciate you guys all watching. Kingscourtpodcast@gmail.com for your questions, as well as on Twitter at VMCenter. And until next time, Kings fans, I'm out. Peace. Hit subscribe. Leave your comments in the comment section. Until next time.